Hello! You're watching movie snapshot scenes, and this is the summary of Scarface 1983. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In 1980, under the sweltering sun of Miami, a wave of Cuban immigrants floods into the United States during the Mariel boat lift. Among them is a man named Tony Montana, scarred, hardened, and burning with ambition. He steps onto American soil, not just as a refugee, but as a man with a plan. He didn't come for safety, he came for power. Tony doesn't flinch. Not at the immigration officers, not at the detention camps, not at the degrading jobs. He spits out his name with pride, daring the world to challenge him. He's not here to survive, he's here to conquer. Alongside his loyal friend Manny Ribera, Tony starts at the bottom, washing dishes, getting pushed around, dreaming of a better life. But dreams aren't enough for a man like him. He wants it fast, he wants it big, and he's willing to take it. Opportunity knocks in the form of a deadly job. Kill a former Cuban government official for a green card. It's bloody work, but Tony doesn't hesitate. He does what needs to be done, cold and clean. In return, he steps out of the shadows and into the brutal world of Miami's criminal underbelly. Tony and Manny begin working for Frank Lopez, a slick, well-connected drug dealer with ties to Colombian suppliers. Frank sees promise in Tony's ruthlessness, but also danger. There's a fire in Tony that can't be controlled, an edge too sharp, too hungry. Their first mission, a drug deal in a seedy motel. What's supposed to be a simple transaction turns into a bloodbath. Tony watches his friends get hacked apart, barely escaping with his life, and a suitcase full of cocaine. From that moment, his reputation is cemented. He's fearless, he's efficient, he's merciless. Back in Frank's orbit, Tony begins to climb. He gets a taste of the life, money, suits, nightclubs, but it's not enough. He looks around at the wealth, the power, the glittering city skyline, and sees something no one else does. His name written across all of it. Tony Montana didn't come to America to be a servant. He came to be king. Tony Montana is no longer a small-time thug. After surviving the blood-soaked motel deal and delivering the goods, Frank Lopez rewards him with money, connections, and a front-row seat to Miami's drug game. But Tony's not satisfied with scraps. He watches Frank, the cars, the mansions, the elegant girlfriend, and sees a man who's grown soft, a man who's playing it safe. Tony doesn't play safe. Manny warns him to be patient, to take his time. But Tony's hunger is different. It's not about money, it's about dominance. He doesn't want to work for a king. He wants to be one. At the Babylon Club, Frank's world of luxury unfolds in front of Tony. The music is loud, the lights hypnotic, and at the center of it all is Elvira Hancock, Frank's icy, elegant girlfriend. Tony is instantly captivated, not just by her beauty, but by what she represents: status, power, control. Elvira is untouchable, and that only fuels his desire. Tony begins making moves behind Frank's back. He makes contact with Alejandro Sosa, a powerful Bolivian drug lord with an empire built on discipline and brutality. Unlike Frank, Sosa respects ambition. He sees potential in Tony. Reckless, yes, but fearless. The two strike a dangerous partnership, one that will soon change everything. With money pouring in and deals expanding beyond Miami, Tony's empire begins to take shape. He buys flashy suits, drives sleek cars, and moves into a lavish mansion complete with fountains, security cameras, and a golden globe inscribed with his new motto, "The world is yours." But his rise isn't without cost. Tony grows bolder, more paranoid. His relationship with Frank fractures. Trust erodes. Respect vanishes. When Tony realizes that Frank tried to have him assassinated, he doesn't flinch. He confronts him with the cold detachment of a man who's already decided. How this ends? In one swift, brutal moment, Tony seizes control. Frank is executed. The throne is now empty, and Tony takes it without hesitation. He marries Elvira. He cements his partnership with Sosa. He becomes the most powerful drug lord in Miami. everything he ever wanted is now within reach. But behind the mountain of wealth, something darker brews. The higher he climbs, the more dangerous the fall becomes. And Tony Montana? He's not looking down. Tony Montana has everything he ever dreamed of. His mansion stretches like a palace. His face is on the front pages of financial reports, coded of course, and his name is whispered with fear and awe throughout Miami's underworld. Gold chains, imported cigars, Elvira on his arm. Every inch of his new life screams power. But the higher the throne, the lonelier the king. Behind the lavish decor and endless piles of cash, Tony grows restless. He walks through his fortress like a caged animal, watched by cameras, protected by guards, yet isolated from the world. His paranoia creeps in slowly, like smoke under a locked door. He trusts no one, not his associates, not the law, not even Manny, his most loyal friend. Elvira, once a symbol of his triumph, now sits cold and distant, numb from a haze of cocaine and disillusionment. Their marriage is joyless, more contract than connection. Tony tries to control her, to own her, but Elvira is slipping away, and he doesn't know how to stop it, only how to lash out. Still, the business grows. His influence expands beyond Miami. With Sousa's supply and his brutal enforcement, Tony becomes untouchable. But the pressure is building. The police are watching, the IRS is circling, and Tony, reckless and defiant, keeps pushing boundaries. His downfall begins not with a bullet, but with a bank. During a money laundering meeting, Tony refuses to play by the rules. He insults his partners, accuses them of skimming, and draws unwanted attention. The bankers back away. The walls begin to close in. Then, tragedy strikes home. Tony discovers that his younger sister Gina, the only person he shows true tenderness toward, is secretly involved with someone. His protectiveness turns violent. He follows her, spies on her, treats her like a possession, not a person. And when he learns the truth, that Gina is with Manny, Tony explodes. In a blind rage, he storms Manny's house and pulls the trigger. The sound of the gunshot shatters more than flesh. It destroys the last part of Tony that wasn't consumed by power. When Gina appears, horrified and screaming, Tony realizes too late what he's done. The blood on his hands isn't just from business, it's personal now. Irreversible, the king, still sits on his throne, but it's built on corpses, cocaine, and betrayal. And beneath it, the foundation is starting to crack. Tony Montana is a king surrounded by enemies, some real, some imagined. His empire is larger than ever, but so is the pressure crushing down on him. The mansion, once a symbol of his triumph, now feels like a tomb. Cameras track his every step, guards patrol the halls, and silence echoes louder than gunfire. He drowns himself in cocaine, piling it high like snowdrifts on his desk. His face is pale, his eyes wide, his thoughts scattered. Rage comes easy now. Trust, never. Every conversation feels like a threat. Every friend, a potential traitor. Elvira, exhausted by his fury and addiction, finally walks out. She doesn't yell. She doesn't cry. She simply says what Tony has refused to hear. "You're not a man, you're a monster." And just like that, she's gone. But Tony doesn't stop. He can't. He's too far in. The law catches up with him. A warrant, tax evasion, prison time on the horizon. His only hope lies in the hands of Alejandro Sosa, the Bolivian kingpin who once saw promise in him. Sosa offers a solution, but it comes with a price. There's a journalist in New York, a crusader digging into Sosa's operation. Tony is ordered to silence him permanently. No courtroom, no warning, just death. Tony agrees. He flies to New York, with Sosa's men ready to do the job. But when the time comes, something inside him shifts. The journalist isn't alone. He's with his wife and children. The car is ready to explode. One push of a button and the problem disappears. But Tony can't do it. He screams at the assassin, "No women, no kids!" And when the man hesitates, Tony puts a bullet in his head. The mission fails. Tony returns to Miami, knowing exactly what he's done. He's made himself a liability. Sosa doesn't tolerate disobedience, especially not from someone as dangerous as Tony Montana. Now, the clock is ticking. Tony, broken and erratic, retreats into his fortress, surrounded by weapons, guards, and paranoia. He doesn't care about alliances anymore, doesn't care about money or the throne. All that's left is the fight, the final, inevitable war that's coming straight for him. He looks out over his empire, lit in neon and blood, and whispers the lie he's always believed. The world is mine, but even kings bleed and even empires fall. Tony Montana sits alone in his office, surrounded by gold, marble, and shadows. Mountains of cocaine tower beside his desk. Security monitors flicker on the wall, showing glimpses of a kingdom under siege. Outside, the world moves on. Inside, time is frozen, trapped in paranoia, rage, and regret. The phone rings constantly, calls from lawyers, dealers, and desperate associates, but Tony ignores them all. He's unreachable, unstable. The empire he built with blood and fire is rotting beneath him, and all he can do is sniff another line and stare blankly at the screens. The fallout with Sosa seals his fate. Down in Bolivia, Sosa watches the New York journalists continue his investigations unharmed, and now Tony has made him look weak, disrespectful, dangerous. A message must be sent, orders are given, a private army is dispatched. Back in Miami, Tony doesn't prepare. He doesn't even know they're coming. He's too lost in his own storm. Gina bursts into the mansion, broken and furious. She knows what Tony did to Manny. Her grief crashes over him like a wave. She screams, slaps him, beats her fists against his chest. Tony tries to explain, to justify, but there are no words strong enough to fix what he's destroyed. He begs her forgiveness, sobbing, choking on his own guilt. Then, gunfire. Suddenly, everything shatters. Sosa's men have arrived. The compound erupts into chaos. Explosions shake the walls. Bullets tear through marble and flesh alike. Guards fall one by one, caught off guard by the merciless precision of the invaders. Tony rushes to protect Gina, dragging her up to his office. She's terrified, confused, but before he can secure her, she's gunned down in front of him. Tony cradles her lifeless body, screaming, the last piece of his soul torn away, and, still, he fights. Fueled by rage, grief, and pure adrenaline, Tony arms himself with an M16 and a grenade launcher. He stands at the top of the grand staircase, blood on his face, fire in his eyes, and screams into the void, "Say hello to my little friend." He unleashes hell. Dozens fall before him, but the tide is too strong. They keep coming. Tony Montana, king of Miami, stands alone against an army, because in the end, he would rather go down fighting than ever bow to another man. Smoke fills the air. Flames flicker across the grand halls of Tony Montana's mansion. The once untouchable fortress is now a battlefield, soaked in blood and echoing with gunfire. And at the top of the ornate marble staircase, Tony stands alone. Rage in his veins, a rifle in his hands, and death closing in around him. His face is bruised, his body battered, but his eyes still burn with fury. He roars like a beast, firing round after round into the swarm of black-clad mercenaries invading his home. The staircase becomes his throne of resistance, and he refuses to leave it. "You think you can take me?" he bellows, each word soaked in madness and defiance. "I take your bullets! I take your effing bullets!" Dozens fall under his assault, but more come. They swarm through broken windows, shattered doors, walls riddled with holes. His empire, once built with iron and ambition, is reduced to rubble. His guards lie dead, his sister Gina gone, his fortune meaningless. But Tony doesn't run. He won't beg. His world may be burning, but he clings to it like a dying god. In his twisted sense of honor, surrender is worse than death. Then, silently, death arrives. A dark figure appears behind him, a lone assassin, masked and calm, moving like a shadow through the smoke. While Tony continues firing, blinded by rage, the assassin raises his shotgun. One silent breath. Boom! The blast tears through Tony's back. He stumbles forward, blood erupting from his chest. His arms go limp. The rifle slips from his grasp. He takes one last breath, one last look at the chaos below, and collapses. Tony Montana, the Cuban immigrant who came with nothing and dared to take everything, falls face first into a shallow pool below the staircase. The water ripples, stained, red. Above him, illuminated in gold, the statue stands tall. The world is yours. Ironic, inevitable. Outside, the city of Miami carries on. Sirens scream in the distance. The skyline still glows. But in that mansion, one chapter ends. Not with justice, not with redemption, but with blood. Tony didn't just lose, he consumed himself. And now, the throne he fought so hard for sits empty, cold, broken, and soaked in silence. The mansion is quiet now. The smoke has cleared. The gunfire has faded. The bodies lie still, strewn across the once pristine floors like fallen chess pieces in a lost game. At the bottom of the staircase, Tony Montana remains face down in blood, floating in the shallow pool beneath the statue that once promised him everything. The world is yours. Those words shine hollow now. Tony's story is over, but its echo lingers in the ruins. He came from the bottom, an orphan of revolution, a refugee with nothing but scars and ambition. He clawed his way into America's underbelly and built an empire from cocaine and fear. Every step he took, every man he killed, every lie he told, it was all in service of that dream. Power, respect, freedom, but he never understood the price. He betrayed his friends. He destroyed his marriage. He killed his best friend in cold blood. And when the people he loved tried to reach him, he pushed them away, then buried them with his mistakes. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a villain. He was a man who wanted too much, too fast, and couldn't stop once he had it. Outside the mansion, the world moves on. Police arrive too late. Neighbors whisper behind fences. The drug trade shifts, reorganizes. Someone else will rise tomorrow. Someone always does. But they'll walk over the ashes of Tony Montana to do it. No funeral, no flowers, no legacy, just a cautionary tale written in bullets and blood. And yet, his name will be remembered, not for what he built, but for how he burned. He became a symbol of greed, of defiance, of the thin line between ambition and madness. In the end, Tony Montana didn't fall because someone was stronger. He fell because he never knew when to stop. He believed the world was his, that he could take whatever he wanted. But the world doesn't belong to men like Tony. It swallows them. The camera lingers on his body, lifeless and still. The music rises, dark, mournful, and final. The lights dim, and the curtain closes on the life of a man who wanted the world and paid with his soul.